Star Stuff art kits. What are they? What are they all about? And how do you use them? Let's find out.
1, 2, what you gonna do? Gonna face truth, it's happening you.
Right, let's see what we've got. So, okay, so in every kit you're going to get a set of watercolours with 2 brushes, a big one and a small one. You get a Uni-Pin 0.3mm fine liner, which I really like these pens, I use them quite a lot. You will get a nice set of instructions which takes you through this whole process step by step, but of course most importantly is what's in here. These are the 5 templates that you get with the kit. Every kit comes with 5 different templates, all themed, or vaguely themed at least. Okay, so this isn't picking up on the camera particularly well, but believe me, it's easier to see in person than it is on the camera. So we've got 5 separate different designs we can choose from to have a go at. Anyway, I think I should choose one of these designs and have a go at it. Let's see. So I'm going to have a go at this Mr. Astronaut. He's basically holding a balloon and he's flying up into space on his balloon. So you can't really see it at the moment with it's a light grey colour on the print. But let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to start off. Take my fine liner and pretty much just trace the outline of the sort of the grey outline you see on the print. Just trace over it exactly as you see it, or as close as possible. This is not going to look particularly interesting or particularly well done. It's just the first initial step, and you'll see we'll do little things later on that will really make it pop and much more interesting to look at. So bear with me. Okay, and this is the result of that. It's a pretty basic, very simple, straight line art. And don't worry if you've gone over or haven't exactly traced all the lines absolutely perfectly. At this point it doesn't really matter. I certainly haven't. Even my practiced hand has missed the line a few times. So don't worry too much about that, because we can fix it in this stage where we're going to add what's called line weight variation. It's probably the part that I enjoy the most about this type of illustration. So line weight variation is where you add thickness to your lines in particular places. So for example here, where there's probably a bit of shadow, I'm just going to make that a little bit thicker. And here, where this sort of part of his leg is behind his hand, we want to make that a little bit thicker to show the separation, the distance between the two. And anywhere where you've got joining lines, really, there's a few kind of rules to go by. Well, not rules that people tend to go by, and that is, when there's a separation of depth. So for example, like here, where you want to show that something is behind something else, you make the line thicker between the two, or if there's a shadow being cast on that area. And another thing people do is they'll make the outline quite thick as well. like so. So the whole of the outline of the illustration gets this extra thick bold line, makes the whole thing pop out. Really, you can do any, all, of none of these things if you want to. It's really up to you. This is where you can add your little character into the drawing. Do whatever you feel looks good, and it's just a case of just going through each part, every line in the drawing, and just you know, adding little bits here and there. But it's a good idea to put a few little rules in your head, so whenever you see this, you add a bit of thickness there. Whenever you see a particular shape or particular joining of lines, that's where you need to put in some thickness. So I've listed a few kind of rules to go by, but again, they are definitely not things you have to do. It's just the way I do things. And another thing you can do here is go through and look for any of your little mistakes or your wobbly lines or areas where I drew a double line there by mistake. And you can go around and fix those little mistakes as well. Right, so on to another time lapse. I'll get this done, and we'll come back when it's finished. Okay, I'm happy with that, so I'm going to stop there. So if I didn't do a very good job before of explaining what line weight variation is all about, this might show it a bit better. If we can put this side by side with the before and after, which I'll put after over there, so you can see hopefully that the after just looks a lot more finished, there's a lot more cartoony, a lot more kind of, I guess, professional. It just has a nice, more interesting look to it than the before. So next step is to wait for this to dry completely, because we're going to start putting on some watercolour next. We want this ink to be absolutely bone dry before we start doing any of that. So time to have a cup of tea and a spot of lunch maybe, and kick back for half hour or so. Cold. Okay, it's been a little while, it's completely dry now, and what I've done, I've got myself a nice little jar of water and a bit of paper towel, because that's what we'll need for the next part. This is the fun part when you can start putting some colour on this thing. Okay, so I'm just going to take one of the paintbrushes, wet it nicely, and then go into one of these colours. What am I going to do first? I think I'm going to go for a bit of an orange first. So just wet the paint, chuck it in the lid, use it as a bit of a palette. I'm going to chuck some orange in there, yellow in there. I want to make it a little bit lighter. I'm going to put that. Oh, a top tip. If you want to, you can tape down the edges, along the edges, with masking tape onto something stiff, or onto a table or whatever. I'm not going to do that because there's no masking tape in the kit, but if you do have some masking tape to hand, just tape down the edges and it will stop as you add water to the paper. It will start to buckle a little bit. It happens to pretty much any paper. If you this is proper this is nice proper watercolour paper, so it shouldn't do it too badly, but it'll still buckle. But as long as you're careful and don't completely saturate the paper, you'll be fine. But just bear that in mind. But to avoid that too much, tape down the edges of the page if you can. And there are no rules about what colours you need to put where. You can find all of these designs on my website or social media in one form or another. If you really want to see what colours I used when I first drew these, but really make it up as you go along, because that's the fun part, Think of it like a colouring book at this stage. It's just you colour it in however you want to colour it in. It always helps to bear in mind where the light's coming from. So for example, these undersides of his fingertips are going to be in shadow. So we just, with a little less water on our brush by now, we're going back into the paint, get a bit more pigment on the brush, and we can make a darker area to show where the shadow is. Just bear that in mind. The more wet your brush is, the more diluted, the more transparent your paint's going to be, and the more dry it is, the more pigment you've got from the paint, the more opaque and dark and saturated it's going to be. And remember, with watercolours you can never make an area darker. You can never make an area lighter once you've painted onto it. So make sure you leave the areas you want highlighted, where the light's going to be shining off of it. Just leave those white, if you will. Just don't paint over those bits at all if you want them to be very bright. There's a top tip here. So I want to start using the small little brush for some smaller details up here, but trying to get a lot of water on this brush is not really going to work. So what I'm going to do is mix up a bit of the paint that I want in my lid here, my lid palette. Chuck in loads of water with the larger brush. And then I can just go into that with a smaller brush and use that. And there we have it, all coloured, painted and almost finished. And bear in mind, just because you've got a blank area with no lines on, don't feel like you just have to put in one plain colour in there. Be creative, use your imagination and do whatever you like. These kits are there to be completed in whatever way you see fit. So I've done a little ring of light around our spaceman there. I think it's come out quite well. Now just the last thing to do is to neaten up the line work, like I said before. So we're going to get our fine liner back out. I'm going to go over the lines, make sure they're nice and neat and crisp, and then we can call it done. And there we have it, one finished drawing, and I'm pretty happy with it. So I'm going to do one last little step, which you should probably do yourself. Stick a squiggle on the bottom of it to say it's yours, because each one of these drawings is going to be a little bit unique, a little bit special. It's going to be done by you. You're going to have done it in your own little way, so it's going to be yours to keep in a nice frame or up on the wall or somewhere. And as you can see, we've got plenty of paint left in the pot here for moving on to the next drawing. And all we need to do, get a little bit of water, and we can wipe this palette clean, ready for the next painting. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this, found this informative. And if you're trying out a Star Stuff kit, then please do show me the results on Instagram. I'd love to see it. But for me, that's all I've got time for. So until next time, cheerio.